Good morning and welcome to Shantae's Corner, where we are here to encourage, support, and uplift one another. So, I want to talk about today owning versus renting a home. So, I've done both. I've owned a home in Georgia, rented a home in Georgia, rented a home in California, owned a home in California. I've only been a renter here in Texas, so I can't speak on how it is in Texas. I've kind of learned a little bit about their market, but not much to speak on it. So I can only speak on being an owner in Georgia and California. And I would say, I'm going to just say this right off front. I do agree that renting has its place, and I can say right now in my present status, renting is best. And owning has its purposes too, because I can say the great thing about being an owner is you have the choice to make whatever changes you want to your home. Now, the only thing caveat to that is as with both of the properties I owned, I lived in a townhouse in Georgia and a condo, so we still had stipulations. So if you're in a any type of HOA, you're gonna have their stipulations, but you could still choose to paint your house, as I did with my condo that I owned in California. You can make any type of appliance change you want without having to worry about accident management. However, what comes along with that is when something breaks, like when my water heater no longer worked after I bought my house in California. Even though I had an inspection because of the lessons I learned from Georgia, I still had to pay for it because it wasn't covered by my homeowner's insurance. So you have to think about those things, and you have to be able to financially be able to afford those things, because that was not cheap. And that's one of the biggest things I learned about being a homeowner, is to have good inspections. And still, like I just mentioned, after buying a home in Georgia where we didn't get an inspection, and getting a thorough inspection in California and still having issues, I've learned it's best to get an inspection by someone who specifically knows what they're looking for, so that way with the different systems, you know what you're getting into. Because even in my condo that I bought in California, right before I sold it, I had to replace my air conditioning. I had an issue with my neighbor complaining about my unit, but my unit was old. So even though they updated the HVAC, mine was multi-level, so I still had to replace the unit, which I replaced shortly before I sold my condo. But you have to do those things when you're a homeowner. And then in the house that we owned in Georgia, it ended up just being the way we say it, I don't know how the people call it, just a lemon. It was a horrible buy. We just had so many issues with that condo, that townhouse. Everything you can think of that would go wrong, it ended up going wrong. And we ended up having to walk away from it because of all the issues. So definitely, when you're going to buy a home, make sure you get an inspection, no matter if it's a brand new build. I've seen too many videos online where the inspectors going in and showing all the issues, and that's what we experienced when we bought a brand new home and didn't get it inspected. So when you're looking into buying a home, you better get an inspection, because it's not always quality, no matter how good it looks. So that's what I would say. It's amazing being a homeowner, knowing that you're owning, even though you're paying. And that's another thing too. People want to get these real expensive, nice houses. What I learned from our first buy is to buy below your means. I mean, unless you're really wealthy and you can pay cash or whatever, you don't want to be house poor. And that's what I did with my condo in California. I bought it at the perfect time, because if any of you guys are familiar with California, back in 2015 when I bought my house, rent prices exploded. And the awesome thing was, my house was a an FHA home that I purchased. So my rent stayed the same. Well, my mortgage stayed the same, and I had a renter. So that cut down on the cost of my mortgage, but rent was still increasing like crazy. And when she ended up moving, when I sold, she went to a low income. But when we're looking at rent prices, even the apartment that I was renting before I bought that home, I was paying like seven something. It was like $2,000 by the time I left. So that's a good thing about having a mortgage that's not, how's it put, that's not adjustable. Having a fixed rate mortgage is your mortgage rate isn't going to change except for your taxes. So yeah, and taxes in California, like when I bought mine, luckily they weren't going up too much, but they were going up because how much everything else. And we had a lot of people moving from the Bay Area to Sacramento because of rent prices, and they were buying houses, selling their homes in the Bay and then coming there buying houses, and they probably still are at this time. So everything was going up in Sacramento. So that's the good thing. There's, and that's what I would tell anybody, there's good to both, and it really depends on where you are in your space and in life at that time. It really depends on that, what's good for you, because it may be good for you to buy, or maybe good for you to just remain a renter. So for me, I see good in both. They both have a purpose, and I've enjoyed doing both. I'm happy with my second home, the second home that I purchased. I'm happy that I purchased it, and purchased it when I did. And right now, I don't see, God can do anything, but financially right now, renting would be what I would have to do. But owning, I enjoy being an owner also. So you really have to weigh the pros and cons for you yourself, what works best for you and your family. So that's what I would say about renting and owning. And like I said, I can only speak from living in Georgia and owning and renting, and living in California owning and renting, and I live here in Texas now, and I've only been a renter. So if you have any more questions, I can definitely do my best to answer from those perspectives, because that's where I've lived. So thank you guys for watching, and have a wonderful day.